Jay.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How you doing? You can hear me now?
I can hear you guys. Yeah. Sorry about that. We
Good.
seem to have a bit of connectivity issues.
That's all right. It's all it seems whenever we try to do Skype, there's always a problem. so I got to tell you, I've been kind of waiting 30 years for this moment to be able to talk to you. Big fan from back in the day.
Excellent. Thank you.
So the one thing is, what's it like for you now? I mean, you're the lone original member of the band. I mean, you're keeping the whole Tigertailz name and spirit alive. At any point, did you think to yourself, should I just do something else, form another band, or is there a specific reason why you want to keep it Tigertailz?
Yeah, I've been through that that decision many times. But I just, you get to a point where the band becomes, it's more about what you are rather than what you do, if you know what I mean. So
right.
It's this band is all I know, and I just think, and the older you get, I did think years ago you always, when I was into bands changed the lineup. We wanted to see so on with the original lineup, which some of us have been fortunate to do that. And you you feel it loses something when the original band members go. Obviously it does, because when music touches you or a band touches you from at your time growing up or whatever time of life it is, and then it changes, it's not quite the same.
Right.
But I think as people get older, and us as fans of music and other bands, you realize that people don't live forever, bands don't survive forever, and people don't get on for various reasons, and bands don't work for various reasons. And one of the kind of turning points for me was we had a whole decision, when Pepsi died, obviously in 2007. That was extremely traumatic. But funnily enough, around that time when we got back together and did a few festivals in Europe, we played with Journey, and I was a huge Journey fan, but because it wasn't like the original lineup at that time, it was Steve Aguirre or whatever the guy was singing. Before
right.
the gig, I wasn't that kind of excited about it. But when we played, and I just thought, what matters here is I'm here, stood with all these thousands of other people in this beautiful sunshine in Sweden where we were, watching a band that I love, and it sounds great. And I thought, do I care who's in it to a certain extent? And at that point, I just didn't. And from then on, I kind of thought, well, actually, it doesn't matter really. It's all about the band. You become a brand after a while, and that's the most important thing. So if people still come and see you and enjoy your music, that's the most important thing. Because otherwise there would be nothing. So, and I think, as I say, as the fans get older with you, then they appreciate that. They understand that. Everybody wants, like I said, the original lineup. We would all love that, but there's reasons why that can't be. All sorts of different reasons.
Right.
And people understand that, I think, as we get older.
Have people given you flack over continuing on and being the only original member? Because I see that does happen a lot with a lot of the other bands where it's only like one original member and they're going on, and people are giving them flack, and I say to myself, like you said, okay, it's about the music and all that, and this is all but I think people don't really understand too that as great as it is technically your job, it's your career. So I feel you guys have the right to work and play the music that you've created. So I mean, I get it, but some people don't, But so, do you get that flack from people?
I can't say we've really had that. I certainly haven't had that. I haven't seen it, and I haven't had that feeling from when we play. The kind of overriding emotion, if you like, and feedback we get is either, if it's our own gigs, people coming along to see that, naturally they wouldn't be there if they didn't dig it. But when we play, festivals and things where there's where we're playing in front of audiences, particularly people who quite often, this happens a lot with this band, has done over the years, where we play, I don't know if you've seen it in the United States, but in Europe, these genres of rock music used to be separate, and you'd have separate festivals or days within a festival where, the heavier stuff and maybe, real thrash stuff, and then there was maybe a hair day or whatever. They kind of merge all into one now, and so you're playing in front of people who are definitely not into your band, and the overriding feeling and feedback I always get is, I come off stage afterwards and we go out and mix with the fans and stuff, and people will always come and say, I never really liked your band, but actually seeing you, and I think is great. You just completely surprised me, and I did not expect that, So, I haven't had that feeling. I mean, there's probably a small minority of people who do, focus on that. Generally, they're people who have connected with previous members of the band. I think they're the ones who kind of stir that kind of stuff up, but I can't say that I've really seen too much of that, to be honest.
Well, that's cool. Now, you mentioned too about the passing of your longtime bass player and original member Pepsi Tate. That had to be probably the toughest blow for you guys.
Yeah, because at that point there was obviously still him, and we did kind of it took long discussions and think about it long and hard, but again, you come to that conclusion. Once you stop, and it, when we reformed back in whatever it was, 2005, 2006, it takes a lot to get a band like this back up and running. Like a machine. And
right.
And once that starts rolling, you appreciate how much it takes to keep it rolling. It isn't easy mobilizing this amount of people. It isn't easy dealing with all the business side, which is a constant. Overhead for everyone. And so if you stop, it's kind of finished. And we just felt that wasn't really doing Pepsi kind of justice. I don't think he would have wanted that. I think he'd loved the stuff we've done since, particularly the new stuff we're doing. He would have really dug that. He had a big belief in, even though we all really were really the heavy stuff, where the Tigertailz is different from other kind of hair bands, that we were never really into, the sort of stuff that created this kind of, hair metal bands, I guess, out of LA, the kind of Poison kind of sound and that kind of sleazy, trashy sound. We have written some songs of that, but, we were into like Ozzy and Zeppelin and Sabbath, and so that you can hear that in a lot of our songs, particularly, the Berserk stuff. There's a real mix of commercial stuff, but there's that heavier stuff. But Pepsi always felt, he said, you have to focus on why people got into you in the first place, and they got into us because like that big sound. It was kind of a bit commercially, but loud guitars with really well constructed songs. So it's kind of commercial, right, poppy, but also it's quite heavy as well. There's riffs in there. It isn't that kind of 12-bar kind of typical kind of hair metal sound that people. It's very throwaway. I don't think we've ever really sounded like that. And Pepsi, to see what we're doing now, I think he would just love it because. And with the new record, you'll hear it when it comes out in a few weeks. It's commercial. It's the big bang sound is there. We've been through years where we started really heavy and funky, and we still dig that, But we felt this year, this album, we'd really make it, kind of more original Tigertailz sounding and capture that whole essence of what the band's about.
Nice. Now, and something you guys did, speaking about being on the heavier side at times and kind of taking people by surprise. Now, something you guys did years ago, a couple of cover songs you did was you covered Megadeth's Peace Sells, and then you also did Metallica's Creeping Death. People, I know I wasn't expecting it. I'm sure other fans were not expecting it. Whose idea was it to do those songs?
Well, again, it goes back to me, Pepsi, and Kim at the time. But all of us have always been big fans of that really heavy stuff. Pepsi was a huge Megadeth fan. I was a massive Metallica fan. Kind of still am. So was Kim. And we were doing the record company wanted another single, and they were going to use the ballad off Berserk called Heaven. And we thought, well, wouldn't it be great to make a whole, the B-side? So they said, go in and record some B-sides. We'll do a whole complete juxtaposition. Yeah, side A is the slushy ballad. Side B is going to rip your head off and do something exactly the opposite of what you think is coming next. And we actually went in to record because we're huge Judas Priest fans as well. And we did Exciter. We just didn't get the session. Didn't have ran out of time and weren't able to do. So the three songs were actually Peace Sells, Creeping Death, and Exciter from by Judas Priest, Unleashed in East, and that's what we set out to achieve. And unfortunately, we ran out of time and couldn't do Exciter, so it ended up just being Peace Cells and Creeping Death. And by the same token, because we've always been into that kind of orchestral sound, we changed Creeping Death into, made it again orchestrally sounded with strings and choirs and things like that, which I'm not sure. I think Kirk Hammett heard it because they were still on MFN at the time, I think. So not quite sure what they made of that, but yeah, it was just a bit of fun, to be honest. But that's the sort of music we were into, as well as all the other stuff. We do like a lot of this genre of music. Massive fans, Def Leppard and a lot of the 80s bands like Blue. Love the album Without Love. That's one of our favorite, mine and Pepsi's favorite album ever. The Kicks albums we loved. Anything that Beau Hill did, we were into. Huge fans of all that, So we were completely connected with that whole US scene. But the entrenched within that was always our own. We were into the Tubes, we were into Van Halen, we were into all the British bands. That riffing kind of Sabbath sound and Aussie kind of, So you get that in those records, and we still do that kind of thing.
Now, have you guys ever thought, something that's really big nowadays with our bands putting out, either EPs or albums of just cover songs? Have you guys ever considered that?
Yeah, kind of. We've actually done a cover on this new album, which was just started as a bit of fun, but it's a great song. I'm not sure it was ever a hit in the United States, but a band called Mud over here was a huge hit back in the 70s, through that whole kind of T-Rex kind of glam rock period of the 70s. But as for doing a whole album, I don't know. I guess I think we argued about something to do it. The guys in the band now are all got very diverse kind of tastes. Like I said, for me, it's like give me Exciter, Judas Priest any day of the week over bloody, the kind of hair metal stuff. So, but Rob, the singer, he's a massive 80s. He's just entrenched in that whole thing of the sort of US bands at the time. He's 10 or more years younger than myself and Matt and that. So he's very much that sort of 80s era. But it's an idea. One of the things I think I wanted to do next is maybe more of an unplugged album. Of the
nice.
For a lot of the sort of maybe quieter songs we've got. I just think if you do an unplugged album correctly, I think that could be quite cool. But I don't know. We'll see. At the moment, we're just focused on getting this new record out.
Cool. Now, and then speaking of Rob, your singer, he's kind of played like musical instruments, like a musical chairs play thing with you guys. He started playing guitar, which you guys, I guess that was the only time you did that with dual guitars. And then he switched to bass, and now he's your singer. I'll be honest with you. We were floundering when when we had a whole incident when Sarah joined the band, which we had a pretty solid lineup with a friend of ours playing bass who was just doing it temporarily when Pepsi passed away. Friend of ours, Nails, came in and was just such a solid proposition for the band. Always great, just really great musician, great guitar player, great singer. We had a really solid lineup, and I don't know, it was going great. Everything was cool, we were happy, and then all of a sudden it was like 3 years later kind of thing, and then it was like, well, are we going to give it? And that's when the whole thing started with, looking for a full-time bass player, and we took that thing to make Sarah come in, and then from that point it all kind of collapsed pretty quickly. And so when Kim went, and Ace followed pretty soon afterwards, and there's all sorts of things going on in the background that are probably best kept, behind the scenes. But the reasons why all that happened, and I was floundering. I'll be honest, I just didn't know what to do. So we pulled the band together as best we could at the time, and Jules came in to sing, but he was based in Australia. That was always going to be a huge challenge, but fair play to him. He got on that plane religiously a couple of times a year from Australia to the UK. It's like a 24-hour flight, and he'd come over. We bang the dates together. We do a few weeks run of shows. The recording wasn't a problem because we just send him the songs. We did an EP, did a number of videos. It was worked well, but he was really going through some tough times towards the end of it with some personal issues and back home, and he's also in his own band, so it's starting to take his toll on him. So
yeah, Rob's kind of switching, but we're floundering a bit. It took a time for us to settle down, and I just feel we've kind of got there now. And but I mean, like I said, again, you just roll on, and I feel at this time of life, the band is almost like a project, and you've got to keep reinventing yourself, and you try and keep a solid lineup, but for all sorts of reasons, it may change again. Who knows? I don't know how much longer I can keep going. I'm like 52 years of age, you know what I mean? So none of us are getting any younger, so we'll see. But
right.
Yeah, it's not easy, man. It doesn't matter what band you're in. It's whether it's an A-lister or right down the bottom of the tree. It's extremely difficult to keep that kind of consistency for all sorts of reasons. Health, all of those kind of things. There's a million reasons why bands don't work. Sure.
Now, have you guys ever come to the States and played? I mean, I remember for years just waiting, and it just never happened. Have you guys ever made it to the States?
We came last year. I surprised you didn't know. We were there last year. We did the Kiss cruise in Miami, and also did another couple of shows in down there while we were there in Florida. So yeah, we did.
Yeah, I saw you did the Kiss cruise, but you didn't come up the East Coast.
No, but we're there later this year, so we will see you later this year. We're playing the was it I think it was called the Rock and Skull Fest. Was it maybe called something else now, Midwest Fest or something? And then we're doing a run of, I think we've got at least 2 or 3 other shows confirmed around that. So I think sort of, New York, Albany, that kind of area, Chicago. We haven't announced those yet because we're still kind of working through the firming up the details. But yeah, that's October, I think. So we will be out at the East Coast later this year.
Awesome. I hope you guys come close to Philly.
I believe we will. Yes, I believe we will.
Great. So, all right. So, one other question too before we get into the new music was, in the years that Tigertailz was no more, in that 95 to 2005 era, what were you doing? Were you with another band? Were you just laying low?
No, we kind of went Tigertailz kind of. He really actually split up. I kind of left. They carried on for a couple of years with another guitar player for a while, and I went off. I had children, or rather, my wife did, and I went into a completely different area. I went to university, got a degree, and did all that kind of stuff. So, and it's interesting. You touched on that point earlier about bands doing this for making a living. Tigertailz isn't about that, and we made that decision when we got back together with Pepsi. He was the same because we all had other careers outside of it. Well, particularly me and Pepsi, that we were extremely happy with. We don't need the money from the band. That's not why we do it. We were only going to do it on our terms and when we wanted to do it. So that decision was made while we sat around the table even talking about this back in 2005, because we both had other careers that we were perfectly happy with and families and things like that, and we didn't want the band taking over again. So yeah, we both, he was into video editing. I do IT stuff, and I'm perfectly happy with that. I mean, and the benefit of that, and this comes screaming through for me more than I can say about anything else at the band, is that when we go away and play, and when we go out there and play, you get it from 100%. You get in totally dedicated to that show or those group of shows, whereas I have to say we've toured with a lot of bands and played with a lot of bands, and when the bands who are kind of doing it for a living, like any job in inverted commas, it becomes a chore, and you can tell that they're going through the motions a lot of the time, and I kind of feel from it that way because it ain't a great business to be actually trying to make a living in more than ever, as you obviously know, because of the whole digital age and everything. Trying to sell any product, and how bands survive, I have no idea. I just do not know. When you consider what just a normal, I don't know what's like in the United States, but I'm guessing much the same as you in the UK and Europe. The kind of average wage from any kind of job, to try and earn that in a band, you times that by 4 or 5 people, mate, that must be so difficult because you're just not selling anything anymore. Okay, you might do a bit of merch and stuff and online stuff, but I mean the music, for all the great things that have happened with the digital age, the rest of it's kind of been so devalued, whereas you used to sell any band, selling tens, hundreds of thousands of albums, which spawned other income, and that's just gone. So I just yeah, I wouldn't want to choose a band to make my living in, and now it's just like the Pacific Ocean, where everyone's got their little islands trying to make ends meet on them. It's really tough.
It is. So the new album, which comes out, you said, in a few weeks, it's called Daggers?
No, we're going to do that as an EP. That'll be a separate thing. This one's called Blast. This is a full-blown album. Daggers was going to be the follow-up. It is going to be the follow-up EP to the Knives thing we released a couple of years ago. That's all kind of quite, heavy kind of stuff, and mostly, just I suppose kind of where Tailz has been in the last sort of, maybe 5 years, where it's quite riff and heavy orientated. This is a full-blown album of all new songs, and it's called Blast, and if you were into Tigertailz back in the day, this is where it's at. If you want to hear music, you want to hear, that kind of sound, it's all going on there. The big choruses, the catchy riffs, it's really happening. So we're so pleased with it, and we're just literally at the mixing stage within the next, or we have to have it finished by the end of next week. So I think the release date is April 29th, is it? Something like that. So it's within the next sort of 4 weeks. We will. It'll be announced and it'll be available. So and we're really delighted with it. It's great.
Well, the single that you guys put out with the video, when it first came out, I was like, "What is pipped it, popped it?" I'm like, "What is this?" And I hit play, and I'm like, "Wow, they really went overboard. They're all in pink." I'm just like, "Oh my God, this song is incredible!" Like, I just can't stop singing it in my head. It's just so catchy, and it's just such a throwback to that 70s bubblegum glam stuff, and I just loved it. And I've been playing it every week on the show. I just can't stop playing it.
Thank you. I mean, that kind of what that came about like that was we've been recording this song back this time last year, like January, February, and not full time obviously, but starting with the new songs. That's when we actually started it. And about 2 or 3 songs into it, there's a massive competition in Europe called the Eurovision Song Contest, which is a really kind of camp pop thing, not in any way kind of rock bands. I don't know if you ever remember, the band won it about 5 or maybe 10 years ago, a band called Lordi, remember them, with all the masks on and that kind of stuff? Do you remember those guys?
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
It looked a bit like Gua, but the band called Lordi, they won it. Just that was like just a right curve, but it's a huge thing over here or in Europe. And to cut a long story short, the main broadcasting company in the UK, the BBC, said this year, because they've made such a mess of the last 5 years of their entries, they just made it come like last or whatever. They said they were going to have an open submission. So we were in recording an album, and I had this song going on called it Pipped It, Popped It. And I thought it was kind of, I'd worked it I had a song, and I kind of merged it with one of Pepsi's demos, bits of his song. And it just so happened where they announced this song contest, which will be funny in itself, because they were never going to choose us. But what we'll do is we'll do a video around it that just completely celebrates that whole period of kind of that real kind of T-Rex kind of glam rock period. 70s thing, we'll have the outfits made, and that was the kind of concept of it all. But it kind of then shaped the rest of the album, because we thought, actually, Rob sounded so great on it as singing it. We thought, we should write more songs of this. And we've written the songs, most of the songs on the album are kind of in that vein now, and it's much more, it's a really commercial sounding album, and it just captures that kind of, like I said, if you're ever into that sort of original Tailz 87 kind of 90s sound, Black and Blue, that kind of Without Love, all that kind of era, you're going to dig this record big time. It's a real driving album. Stick it on when you're driving and you'll be singing along, no problem. There's nothing, it's a very positive album. There's nothing difficult to get into, no heavy songs, or you're going to get it straight away, I think. So I think people will really, really enjoy it.
I was thinking the same thing. Like when I hear it, like I picture like a summer sunny day with the top down and the Pip Dip Pop It song going on. It just seems it's like a happy, feel good sing along song.
That's exactly it. And we did it. Everything was written specifically for that Eurovision Song Contest, which they didn't select us, so they ended up picking some, Simon Cowell X Factor load of rubbish, which we always knew they were going to do. But we put it out there, and everyone was like, "Oh man, I got to." I know it's like 25,000 views or something in the first few days or something, whatever it was. It got really well received. So it was kind of a bit of fun, and we've shaped the album around it to make it that sound. Because, it felt really positive rather than that kind of, we all dig the heavy stuff, but sometimes you want to kind of lighten up a bit and just, like I said, drive in, you want to sing along, and it's kind of got that Van Halen feel about it too, where I've always found this band and Pepsi was the same, that heavy metal rock music, or certainly this genre of music, you can't do it seriously. Do you know what I mean? If you're there standing seriously, you can't hear playing some music, you haven't got your tongue planted firmly in your cheek, then you're missing the point. You know what I mean?
Right.
But the music's still great. You could, some of those songs, and if they're well produced like this is, we've got layers and hundreds of backing vocals. We use some session singers, a girl who sings with us. It's just laced with harmonies and huge vocals, and people would get it. It's almost like a musical, really. The album is. I'm so pleased with it. It's like some. You put it on, you think, my God, this sounds like Fame or something like that. From the 70s or 80s or something. It's kind of hysterical, but it's really, really catchy, and I think people will completely get it. I just can't. If you're into this kind of music, there's no way you won't get this album. No way whatsoever.
I can't wait to hear the rest of it. I really can't.
I think you love it, mate. I really do.
It's funny too, because you were saying you can't take it seriously, and I just think to myself, like, as I'm going through it and I'm watching some of the videos and all, you guys had the song off the last EP, Punched in the Guts, and one of the lyrics is what is it? Burgled or gurgled by sluts or something.
Yeah. Again, you know what I mean? It's getting up there. It's like punk rock. I've always thought that we do that quite well, and I say we love the heavy stuff. It's great to play live, but again, don't be so serious. You're standing up there and trying to be, the king of all kings playing this stuff. Yeah, it's great. It's riffing. It's a great tune, but get up there and have a great time, and it's quite amusing at the same time. Punched in the guts and kicked in the nuts and burgled by sluts. What a great lyric.
That is awesome. It's funny too, because I was sitting there the one night and I was watching it, and my daughter comes over and sits next to me, and I didn't even think of the lyrics, but she's all into like the animation. So I'm like, here, check this video out. And then you see the Burgled by Sluts lyrics come up on the screen, and she's looking at me like, Dad?
Yeah, not such a good move, no. You kind of got to keep that in mind as well, But I don't know, generally our audience has kind of got older with us, if you know what I mean.
Right.
I'm not sure there's much there for the kids anymore, but you never know.
It's too funny. So, all right. So it seems like the plans then for 2016, you're going to the album comes out in the end of April.
Yep.
And then I guess you'll be doing some festivals over in Europe, some shows over there in England and everything, and then eventually making your way to the States in October.
Yeah, we have a whole run of shows actually starting the 8th of April. It's about 2 weeks worth of, maybe 3 weeks worth of shows over here in the UK and in Europe, I think June. And then, we were out with you guys then end of the year, so towards the end of October. So pretty mapped out for this year, and everything will be promoting that album. And I think I'm so chuffed with it. I can't tell you. I know bands always rave about their new record, but honestly, this is not in any way a throwaway record. I'm so in it. I know Pepsi love it too, because it's just, I keep thinking, like I said, of those, the Rat albums and Black and Blue, and I'd be like, come on, mate, stick this on. And we were such geeks for putting on headphones and listening to what was going on in the headphones, as well, with stuff panning back and forth, because we massive fans of Bow Hill with the with the Rat stuff, and Mutt Lange with the Def Leppard stuff, And so we would buy anything that those producers made, because we were so into how they made the record sound, and that's what this record's kind of just plays homage to that whole kind of era. And Rob just fits that kind of sound like a glove to his voice. So we should have moved. We got no business being in the United Kingdom, to be honest. We should have moved to the United States years ago, but, there you go. I'm kind of proud of where we come from. We're like a complete square peg in a round hole over here. We made our mark, and we continue to do so.
Did you guys ever discuss that over the years, moving to the States?
Oh, yeah, many times, yeah. And I mean, we got offered. I think who's the guys we met with? Was it A&M back? The guys who signed Pretty Floyd, and then came over and met with us. We had dinner with them. They were, offering us.
That?
Was it A&M Records? I forget who signed Pretty Boy Floyd. Was it whatever label they were on?
Okay.
And they came over, met with us. They were offering us the deal, and then went back to the States, and then just signed another step band because they were in the States, which meant it would have been easy to deal with. But I mean, because we were selling out like massive venues over here at the time, and it was all the vibe was going on, But the UK's people are much more cynical, that kind of music. Even though those bands were kind of sort of popular over, particularly the bigger ones, the audience never really accepted the whole genre like it did in the States. It was okay if you were in the UK. It was okay if the bands were American and came over, but they weren't going to accept the same thing from the United Kingdom, from Great Britain. A band doing it because I don't know, and it's still kind of true to that effect. All the American bands can come over here and play, but when we try and go over there, you just don't make it easy to get into that country. It's a nightmare. It's, I don't know, we've always faced that challenge. So yeah, we thought about it many times, but for one reason or another, it didn't happen. And here we are 30 years later, I guess.
No, see, that's weird because it seems like, especially like over the last 10 years, there's been so many bands like in Europe coming out with that style and almost like the 80s look, and so that kind of surprises me.
Well, there's been quite a big flood of it from Swedish bands, Scandinavian bands. You've got the sort of hardcore superstar, Crash Diet guys, have really kind of taken that whole scene, and they've created their own scene within Sweden to dig there. We've played with those guys, had some great shows, and they always come up and they always say, we used to listen to Tigertailz in the day when we were skateboarding. The hardcore guys were, all really good, great guys to play with and hang out with, and they've all, went into our band back in the day and were influenced by it. But yeah, and they kind of moved it on a bit to, I think, that kind of harder sound, and that's got a bit more accepted. But, unfortunately what has happened in that time, like I said at the beginning, that whole digital age, which has been great in so many ways, it probably hasn't given those bands the success that they maybe would have had if it was back in the 80s, where you could actually sell some product on a big scale, because ultimately, they make a living, but I guess.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, Jay, this has been great, man. Super excited about this.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm really, really pleased to do it, and thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So, all right, let's get all plugs out there. Where can everybody find you and find the band and get any of the albums or merchandise you guys got now before the new album comes out?
Okay, well, the new album will be on pre-sale within the next 2 weeks, so and that'll be from all our sites. So you can just do a search on Tigertailz, but the main site is tigertailz.co.uk, and again, Tigertailz Official on Facebook and Twitter. Do a search up and you'll find it soon enough. And yeah, we'll have that on sale, the Blast new album, in the next 2 weeks. So you need to buy it. I'm telling you, it's the driving record of 2016. Do it before the warm weather comes, man, because you've had some bad snow over there, haven't you? So you need to get driving.
Absolutely. Cool. Jay, and before I let you go, one last thing. Can I get you to cut a quick ID for me? This is Jay Pepper of Tigertailz, and you're listening to Totally Driven Radio.
Sure. Hi, this is Jay Pepper from Tigertailz, and you're listening to Totally Driven Radio. Rock on!